Flaming Marauder is a dead or dying one. Slick work in there.
Did you have a sweetheart in Stellar Bay?
I had a fling or two, sure. But on Monarch, relationships ain't usually meant to last. A lot of fools tried to impress me, feigning bravado in the wilds, thinking they'd catch my attention with their stories. It was cute. Not so cute when their act got themselves munched. You know what's sexy? Confidence. You know what ain't? Disembowelment.
Could I get another advance, Mr. Nandi?
Just make sure it's properly logged.
I'll note it next to the others, sir.
Well, new business turns up at last.
Celia, didn't I tell you our new statistics-based advertising model would be a hit?
That you did, sir.
How can yield improvements of 26.7% not quicken the pulse? How can 32% cost savings not moisten the loins?
You've often posed these very questions.
Clear my schedule. This newcomer has a meeting with me.
Did you hear that power play, Celia? They don't make them like this anymore in Halcyon. I only hope you don't judge me by my handshake. Now, what business brings you here? What a charming notion. One doesn't meet many free spirits in Halcyon. Not outside Tartarus prison, anyway. Forgive me, I'd be positively enraptured. Only, I take it this means you aren't here for Saltuna.
Yes, that's it. Channel your anger.
I only wish I could do the same.
Seems like you're having a rough time, Mr. Sanjar. Are you doing quite all right?
Oh, don't worry on my account. This is merely the latest in a long line of professional erotic and athletic disappointments. I had hoped that livening up our advertisements with enticing figures would draw the other corporations back to our bosom, but it seems we're back to the drawing board. Surviving alone isn't as easy as it looks. Thanks to the so-called hazard clause, Monarch has been cut off from the board's resources and protection for 10 years now.
So-called is right. We've got our hazards, but we're still here, damn it. The board took off without so much as a thought for the folks left behind.
I don't... Dang it, Captain, that's not right. Folks on Monarch shouldn't have to suffer just because the board says so.
Now, we've kept ourselves in business by trading with individual corporations, but given the off-the-books nature of those transactions, such arrangements are precarious.
You talk like Graham.
Freedom always sounds nice, doesn't it? It makes a rather pretty slogan. But if you sit down and tally up the costs, how you provide for yourself in the absence of aid, how you protect yourself from a hostile galaxy, it starts to lose its shine. I have people to look after. I need to be practical.
That's why Mr. Nandi here has a rather ingenious plan to get MSI restored to the board.
On our terms, mind you.
But will that help the people here, Mr. Sanjar? Keep them fed and safe?
That's precisely what I'm trying to do.
And if our advertising scheme hasn't borne fruit, then perhaps it's time we took matters into our own hands.
It's a two-pronged approach. The first part involves seeing Stellar Bay properly defended.
And a Mantisaur problem, and a Marauder problem.
Many, many problems, but they can all be solved with a Bolt 52 cartridge. If you can get us what we need to rejoin the board, starting the Bolt 52, we'll be able to become one of the most productive and secure cities in Halcyon.
And you'll have a powerful ally on the board.
Why, one of the strongest defenses in Halcyon. An extremely powerful ordnance. I'll need to gather some supplemental materials, but I mustn't get ahead of myself.
You do tend to do that.
The Bolt 52 will be in the old arms building southwest of town, which used to be part of Stellar Bay before we had to move our walls in. And these days, it's overrun with marauders and raptidons. Saying what which way? That's just what it's called. It's supposed to stand for something, but I forget what. Oh, and while you're at it, there should be a terminal in the arms building with some... What can I do for you? You think we're the problem? Have you even heard the nonsense Graham is spewing? It isn't easy keeping a town like Stellar Bay afloat, especially without the board's backing. We need that My, you know how to take control of a situation, don't you? It's warm in here. Is anyone else warm?
What he means to say is that we won't need that frequency once we're able to get MSI restored to the board.
And the first step is getting the Bolt 52. Then it's good that I keep such meticulous notes. I've asked myself the same thing many times, especially seeing as the legal mechanisms we employed were part of the board's own bylaws. It's true, the board has treated us unfairly, but I'd always envisioned that things could be different. For many years, this planet was home to as many corporations as Terra 2, but back then it was known as Terra 1. Really? I always thought they were refreshingly straightforward names. After all, the whole point of terraforming was to make them Earth-like.
Here, though, the results were mixed.
That ain't fair. They didn't leave on account of the hazards. They left on account of their cowardice. The hazards just gave them a reason to put to paper.
Sharp as ever, Nyoka. And as the other corporations began to tally their losses, they decided to pull out. Our leadership at the time certainly wanted to, but there were others of us who saw an opportunity. The chance to improve working hours and conditions, to reform MSI from the ground up. Ah, so you've heard about our prior acquaintance. It was a lapse in judgment on my part, and one I'm not keen to recall. Graham seemed like a reasonable man years ago. And we both agreed that MSI's treatment of its workers was untenable. I thought reforms would be enough. I didn't realize you wanted to abolish the corporate system entirely. Reforms are humane, but they're also good business sense. Exhausted, sick, and malnourished workers are not productive workers. Even a cursory review of the data bears that out.
I hope you'd treat them nice, whether it was good business or not, Mr. Sanjar. That's what being a community means. Treating people right, because it's the right thing to do.
Here, here. That may not be the way the colony works, but it damn well oughta.
A noble thought, Miss Holcomb. Unfortunately, noble thoughts rarely sway board policy. Anyway, we learned of a loophole in the corporate bylaws that would allow MSI to claim ownership of the entire planet once the other corporations pulled out, creating the perfect environment for us to enact these new reforms. That's what I thought! But the senior executives laughed in our faces and insisted we'd be relocating to Terra 2 along with everyone else. In a manner of speaking, many of us stayed behind, in an act of quiet but firm defiance. As the most senior executive remaining, I ended up in charge of what was left of MSI. I moved forward with our planned reforms, as well as our strategy to assume ownership of the planet. Yet not long after I renamed it Monarch, the other corporations dislodged us from the board and began an official campaign to paint us as lawless savages. I don't think I realized how far they'd stoop. Everything we did was legal and above board. We followed their rules, and yet they still found reasons to declare us outlaws. I do think there's something useful in a governing body like the board. Something that keeps us from anarchy, but I dearly wish it functioned differently. Why wouldn't anyone? They own nearly all the resources and infrastructure in Halcyon.
Yeah, that'd go a long way toward rebuilding our homes.
To be on the board is to be part of the colonial community, and being cut off means slow strangulation. I'm not a man to put pride before progress. If membership on the board can ease our hardships and provide us with opportunities, then that's the path I mean to pursue. Besides, I'm hopeful that additional leverage on our part will allow us a more equitable relationship. Oh, believe me, I've learned that much. But I'm also not going to leave MSI at a disadvantage. My hope is to maintain the reforms we've managed here, and who knows? Perhaps once we're restored, we could spread them to other corporations.
It's straight bullshit is what it is. A fabrication rich folks use to preserve their investments, by leaving a lot of people here to die slow.
Nyoka has the right of it. It's a legal provision that gives the board the authority to cordon off any planet or location that it deems dangerous.
But wait, what happens to the folks stuck on the wrong side of dangerous?
I'm afraid the welfare of a few hundred people is too minor a figure into the board's risk assessments. Yes, making all of MSI criminals in the board's eyes. Rather hard to run a business that way.
What can I do for you?
You're distracted. That's dangerous, Parvati. Spit it out.
I'm still fretting about Junlei. About how maybe she might not like me anymore. You had a sweetheart once. Was your courtship as uncertain as mine?
Nah, I ain't the type to make things uncertain. I see something I want, I take it, or I die trying.
Welcome back, Captain. How can I be of assistance? The unit is a cleaning SAM. Hawthorne brought it on board some cycles ago, I'm sure with the intent to modify it, but I've never seen it up and running. Alex likely recorded progress notes detailing his efforts to modify SAM. If you check the terminal in your captain's quarters, we may be able to determine what work remains in order for SAM to properly operate. I request you do not wake me if I am sleeping upon your return.
Initiating initialization sequences. Greetings, customer! This SAM unit is unable to locate your registered information. Would you like to register your SAM? Registering new owner, Captain. SAM units live to clean and clean to live.
We've arrived at Phineas's orbital lab.
Hello? Can you hear me? Does this work? Oh, damn it! Blast, that's loud.
Great work.
I'm just securing my ongoing experiments. And securing myself. Mind the mess. I haven't had a visitor since, in fact, I've never had a visitor.
Oh, thank the law. Your skin hasn't spontaneously changed color. Potential side effect of the revival process. Very rare, but you never know. Right. Welcome to my little habitation, such as it is. I've got caffeinoids, cysty bits, if you're into that sort of thing. So, welcome. Make yourself at home. My secret hideout is your secret hideout. The one I gave you before your pod landed? Ruined, beyond repair. Impossible to find replacement parts. That's Halcyon Manufacturing for you. Don't worry about it. I'm reasonably certain you're not going to spontaneously expire. No need to monitor your recovery. Nonsense. There's no such thing as luck. Only well-calculated margins of error. You survived that fall in 85 out of 100 simulations. Yes, well, you're stuck here with the rest of us. Halcyon's our cesspit now, and we're all circling the drain together. We can wallow in our collective misery, or we can try to make Halcyon a better place. I don't know about you, but I'd like to live in a colony that isn't marching toward oblivion. Oh, Balderdash, you hadn't yet recovered your faculties of speech. What was I to do? Dear so-and-so, would you like to be shoved into an escape pod? Blink twice for yes? Still, I admit I may have been a touch hasty, even thoughtless. I do apologize if I rushed you. Not at all, my intrepid accomplice. I should thank you for tolerating my somewhat brusque manner. I only regret that I couldn't save more of your fellow settlers, what with being hunted by the board, and emptying my supply of necessary chemicals. Of course. What's on your mind? Never know what being frozen did to your brain. There's always a chance you might turn violent. I've no desire to end up like Thompson. Regardless, it's quite comfortable in here, you know. I have my beans, have my caffeinoids, plenty of toilet paper. Absolutely. Let's talk. No, and I've been trying very hard to avoid making eye contact.
Nice to meet you, Dr. Wells. I'm Parvati Holcomb.
Wait, not another word. I don't want to know your name. I don't want to know who you are. Let's just enjoy our plausible deniability while it lasts, shall we? Why don't you just invite the entire colony to my secret, carefully concealed laboratory? It isn't as if I wanted privacy. Oh, fine. As long as you're vouching for their character and they aren't touching things. For what it's worth, I am pleased that you found a crew, such as they are. You're a talented scientist, after all. Our kind has always been incredibly popular. That's odd. I'm at least 65% certain my tone was sufficiently sincere. Perhaps the glass is distorting my voice. Must look into that. What's on your mind? Ah, your old hibernation mask. Had to remove it, you know, in case you were prone to vomiting. make excellent test subjects. Subjects also surprisingly nutritious. Careful, that's my communications terminal. Aha! I see you found my portable molecular compression device, better known as a shrink ray. Find a target, point, shoot. Your target will shrink down into a manageable size, whereupon you may commence beating them to a pulp. Feel free to try it on a marauder sometime.
Captain, we've arrived in Eridanos.
Hey, Captain. I hope I wasn't too much bother at the bar. I did have fun, and I tried some things I never would have otherwise. Though, that whiskey did give my head aching something fierce. Feels like a primal's chewing on my skull. I wouldn't mind having a drink again. Someday. In the distant future. Anyway. I messaged Junlei when we got back and she replied super quick. Okay. I was awake half the night, thinking about what I sent, anxious to see what you said. I reread my message in the morning, and it was unclear. I was drinking when I sent it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had the courage. Also, sorry for the typos. With the headache I got after that whiskey? 1,000,000 times no. I've ruined things in the past because I didn't say things I should have, like, I've met someone who's become special to me. I want to be honest with her, so if she feels the same about me, there won't be any surprises. Isn't she sweet? Like one of those 2-bit romances where one soul's all stiff and formal and, I should be glad to perhaps take hold of your hand, miss. I ought to go write her back. I mean, I already did. Twice. But anyhow, thanks for taking me out, Captain.
I'll lock up behind you.
Oh, Captain, it's beautiful up here. Could we get more jobs like this one?
Hello, hello, hello there. Hope your atmospheric entry wasn't too troublesome. As a guest of honor, you deserve the best in comfort. Sublight Salvage and Shipping Underground, or Slug, as we like to call ourselves, is delighted to welcome you to Eridanos. I'm the Grand Colonial Head, Bellhop. I'm here to grab your bags and direct you, the Inspector, to the Grand Ballroom, which was the scene of the crime. You were indeed. It's the penthouse suite, the best room in the whole Grand Colonial. It was actually Helen's not too long ago. Helen's death has been a shock for many. A lot of people are inconsolable. Hell, even Black Hole Birdie, Helen's beau, has wandered off. Some folks think he had something to do with the murder, but I don't believe it.
Hey, Black Hole Birdie may be a savage brute on the field of honor, but he's no killer.
I still don't understand why anyone would have it in for Ms. Helen.
Folks get heated when it comes to serials and their actors, I suppose. Not particularly. But I think some folks were jealous of her success, or otherwise viewed her as a threat. Reckon how she came about her fame didn't help. Why, she was a natural. People fell in love with her. She managed to wrangle up a following all on her own. She ended up about as famous and high-runged as your average VP, which rubbed a lot of Byzantines the wrong way. Actors ain't supposed to get preferential treatment. I imagine the admin briefed you about Helen's part in the Spectrum Brown unveiling. Too bad about the postponement. Not so terrible as Helen's murder, but still a crying shame. I do. Rizzo's happened to rent out the Grand Colonial Ballroom from Slug for the unveiling. A nice mutually beneficial event. But the murder's gone and ruined that, along with 9 out of 10 of my favorite cereals. Anyway, I think I've held you up long enough. Once you're ready, head down to the lobby. The ballroom is just behind the elevators. Meanwhile, I'll grab your bags. You're making fun, right? Your luggage, belongings, kit, wherever you keep what you ain't wearing. You're still giving me a pretty blank look. Suppose it's none of my business, but do you just wear the same set of clothes all the time? Well, reckon I can respect your candor, even if it scares me a smidge. Anyhow, I'll look for you in the Grand Ballroom later. Hope you can unravel this mystery, Inspector.
I think I must have had something in my ear. I could have sworn you just said we aren't allowed to depart.
Apologies, sir, but the atmospheric complex is on complete lockdown. No one's allowed...
Greetings, Inspector. No need to check in here. Your paperwork has all been processed. You should be able to find the Colonial right ahead. Oh, you're the Inspector. Welcome. Has anyone helped you with your luggage yet?
I feel like I'm spending a fortune just standing here.
Helen could meet a fate like this.
It really is a terrible shame. I absolutely adore...
You know, for a monument to the wealth of the elite built on the backs of the working class, it's real pretty. I guess.
I'll bet you 10 bits this is all just some sort of publicity stunt.
The crime scene's awaiting, Inspector. Can't believe something like this could happen in my hotel. When I found her, I was just hoping she had a little too much to drink, but all the grievous bodily injury adds up, I suppose. Hey, Byzantines and restraint aren't two words that often go together. Wouldn't be the first blood-soaked, unconscious party-goer I've come across. Anyway, I'm sure you've got questions.
Hello there, my inordinately esteemed guest. If my hello were any more earnest, this loudspeaker would explode. Oh dear. I'm sorry, but you don't seem to have a registered room key. If you've lost your key, why don't you pay the hotel concierge a visit? I'm sure she can get you a new one. Then you can come back, and I'll service all of your vertical needs.
Black Hole Birdie's disappeared, you know. The poor...
Oh, thank the law. Inspector, you don't know how relieved I am to see you. Our dossier mentioned you had problems committing to a job. In accordance with Rizzo's company policy, I am required to give you this motivational message. I believe you will find that assisting your local Rizzo's security department is even more thrilling than the sweet, smooth flavor of Rizzo's Spectrum vodka.
Dr. Goodnight, ecstatic to make your various acquaintances and so on? Are we finished with the pleasantries? There's something I'm excited to show you. An extraordinary contraption. You'll love it.
Our coroner has developed a device which may prove useful in your investigation. Our office has instructed her to hand it over to you.
Our office has instructed her to hand it over to you. Oh, please. You make it sound as if I'm turning over stolen goods. Behold, my discrepancy amplifier. Hold it in your hands. Feel the way it hums with ontological potential. I work with the materials to which I have access. Halcyon has no shortage of rifles. The discrepancy amplifier uses a deterministic model of our universe to detect the discrepancy between what should be and what actually is. Then it renders any discrepancies visible by using the power of magnification. Yes, it's a magnifying glass, but an extraordinarily powerful one. It looks through the glass of reality itself.
I'm contractually prohibited from endorsing off-brand technology, but I'll bend that rule just this once. You'll want to peer into the amplifier and examine the crime scene.
This unit has detected a discrepancy related to Halcyon Helen. Unscheduled expiration of. Begin amplification. The discrepancy amplifier has been programmed with advanced speech recognition, scientific analysis, and deterministic calculus protocols.
Oh, you'll love this. Amplifier, tell the inspector about your features.
Please do not interrupt the discrepancy amplifier. The discrepancy amplifier is programmed to take instruction from its registered or designated inspector.
How curious. I must have set its impertinence levels to flagrant.
This unit's features include an automated personality simulator. This unit has been programmed to simulate joy and satisfaction in assisting you. This footprint stands out from the normally spotless floor of the grand ballroom. Typically, the ballroom is cleaned twice daily, which means this must have been made by either Helen or her assailant or assailants. Footprint is a tailor-made 8.75, suggesting that its owner was very particular about their shoe size. It is also the exact size that Halcyon Helen typically prefers. There are traces of dirt throughout the footprint. Excellent observation, Inspector. The following compounds have been detected: purpleberry residue, nitrogen-rich fertilizer, common grass. Grass, fertilizer, and purpleberries can all be found in the purpleberry orchards located not far from the Grand Colonio. This deduction appears sound.
Good work, Inspector. I had a feeling we'd make some progress once we brought you onto the case. You'll need Administrator Ludovico to grant you access to the orchards. Contact him through the secure access terminal in your penthouse suite. Check in with the concierge. Your room should be ready by now. If it isn't, I may have to go shake someone by the collar.
Captain, please show a little respect.
bottle of unreleased Rizzo's product. Helen appears to have attempted to use it to spell something as she expired, but all she managed was a sticky bee. Rizzo's Spectrum Brown has not yet been released for consumption. Spectrum Brown was scheduled to be unveiled at the Eridanos Atmosphere Complex in partnership with Halcyon Helen. Now calculating likelihood of Halcyon Helen using her final moments to endorse Rizzo's Spectrum Brown. Low to moderate likelihood.
I was wondering about that. Before we arrived, I heard something on the aether waves about Black Hole Birdie taken up at the Grand Colonial.
Correct. Bertie Black Hole Holcomb is a registered guest at the Grand Colonial Hotel. Accessing guest database B. The Grand Colonial Hotel is proud to serve the following VIPs. Bertie, Black Hole. Burbage 3001. This evidence has been recorded for later reference. Now generating pre-approved compliment. Splendid work, Inspector.
The Purpleberry Orchards. And a footprint. Inspector, that was absolutely marvelous. Beautifully deduced. With the help of my discrepancy amplifier, of course. Ah, I was waiting for this. Yes, of course. I'm only too eager to cooperate. My apologies, Inspector. I've not yet finished my autopsy. Come back later? Oh, good. One of my favorite subjects. Ask away, my dear. Ask away. I still have the blueprint and several extra prototypes floating around, but I might recommend you try to be careful with it. Some of the amplifier's internal components are rare, shall we say, and I don't have an indefinite supply. I didn't expect an existentialist question so early today. It's a need. Just as sprats feel they must breed, or canids feel they must brutally maul each other, I feel the need to create. Inspector, I'm sure you don't want to spend 4 hours talking back and forth about the intricacies of a science project. It works. That's the important part. Because you're the inspector. I should think that's rather obvious. I invented the discrepancy amplifier to assist me in my own medical work. When you were hired to investigate Helen's death, I realized I had my own part to play. I programmed the amplifier to assist you. I'm entrusting it to your care because I want to see my invention help a brilliant inspector solve the murder of the century. You don't miss a thing, do you, Inspector? I can see why the constable recommended hiring you. Think of the amplifier as my gift to you. May it avail you in the swift and efficient prosecution of justice. You sure you don't want to know anything else? Oh, all right. We can change. Oh, why, I'm flattered, Inspector. Let me think. I've worked at the Grand Colonial for about as long as it's been around. Prior to that, I lived in Byzantium, but I always felt like it was missing something. And that something turned out to be corpses. Byzantium has much in the way of luxury, but examining the dead does not rank amongst the preferred activities of the elite. Absolutely. Usually I'm just a medical practitioner, so I almost never get to deal with anything as unique, or as quiet, as a corpse. The most interesting thing I saw prior to this was the back of Mr. Woolrich's throat after he blew out his vocal cords shouting at an attendant. If I weren't here, I'd be back in my quarters, rewatching Byzantium in the spring, or working on my automatic sprat peeler. Oh, good. One of my fav— You sure you don't want to know anything else?
Something I should know? Are you asking me these questions in an official capacity? I appreciate the gesture, Inspector, but I'm on duty. If you'd like to speak informally, you may visit my office during my scheduled socializing hours. Please, ask your questions. Norval, head bellhop. He was understandably distraught. I believe his feelings were genuine. He's a remarkably poor actor. Hotel security corroborates his whereabouts during the murder. I haven't included him in my list of suspects, but neither am I convinced of his innocence. There's no sign of the murder weapon. Whatever it was that killed Helen, the killer took it with them. Frankly, I'm having trouble imagining exactly what it was that killed her. Helen was known to carry her signature weapon, a bespoke handgun known as the Needler. There was no sign of any such weapon on her body.
The Needler's real? I watched her use that thing in the gunfight at the end of Terror on Monarch.
You keep excitable company. I hope they won't complicate your investigation by touching things. If there were any witnesses, none came forward. Ballroom cameras were also offline at the time of the murder. Helen was very particular about having cameras on her. Security footage would have constituted documentary filmmaking. Can't afford that. Spencer Woolrich and Bertie Holcomb are officially persons of interest in this investigation. I've mostly ruled out Mr. Woolrich, leaving Bertie Holcomb as my lead suspect. Let me rephrase that. He's your lead suspect. I've been instructed to turn this case over to your capable hands, while I continue to serve as a consultant. I know. This entire affair is beginning to sound suspiciously like a 2-bit serial. Mr. Woolrich was Halcyon Helen's professional rival. It's possible jealousy drove him to take Helen out of the picture. I apologize for the wordplay. Conversely, Mr. Bertie Holcomb was Helen's paramour. The relationship was reportedly dissolved. I can't rule out her murder as a crime of passion. Woolrich thinks of himself as a serious and distinguished actor. He was frequently cast in demeaning roles, while Helen played the charismatic heroine. He has reason to be envious. I considered the possibility that Woolrich killed Helen in order to eliminate a rival and advance his own career. But my reasoning collapsed under closer scrutiny. Woolrich owes his career to Helen's dramas. Her death likely harms his long-term prospects. I'm struggling to determine a motivation for him, so I've largely ruled him out. Mr. Holcomb was in a romantic relationship with Helen. This alone is not enough to make him a lead suspect, but he does play tossball. Black Hole Birdie currently holds the record for most non-consecutive blows to the head. His tendency toward irrational and violent behavior is well documented. Please, ask your questions. Anything else? I'm afraid I must decline. It isn't personal, Inspector. I'm just on duty right now. Talk to me later, after you've met with Administrator Ludovico. I'll make time to chat.
I knew I should have gotten her autograph when I had the chance. Look at these people, gawking over Helen's corpse. Bunch of parasites.
Welcome to the Grand Colonial. Please make your...
Finally checked in, I see. I hope you're fond of the penthouse. It's pretty much the best seat in the whole hotel. You shouldn't want for any amenity you might find elsewhere. Should act as a better headquarters for the investigation than any space dust covered ship. That and you ain't got room service on a ship. You ever need anything, come find me. Even if you don't, you can still swing by. I'm always happy to chat. Oh, of course. That is, maybe not on a personal level, but I'm one of her biggest fans. Even started an association of like-minded individuals. I'd lament not having anything to meet about anymore, but the newer tribe just ain't done it for us. Still, there goes my hopes of a Terra on Monarch reunion episode. Sorry, friend, but I guess you don't get it. Helen was special, had a certain quality about her, like she would really go out and fight injustice. You look at Woolrich, and no disrespect to the man, but you just don't get the same feeling. He reminds me more of a vacuum suit without nobody in it. Don't tell him I said that. Now, what can I lend a hand with? Notice my battle-hardened physique, have you? Used to be in a mighty mean line of work. Been shot at 35 times. That is, I've been near people who were shot at 35 times. But to be honest, I never really enjoyed it, you know? It's one thing to tightrope walk between life and death every day, but for just a handful of bits? Nah. When this position came up, I jumped on it and made a lateral move from sublight to slug. I ain't ever looked back. Well, Slug is more trustworthy for one thing, where Sublight is all about back alleys and backstabbing. Slug can be trusted not to salvage your ship when you turn your head. Well, Slug is something like an offshoot of Sublight. It ain't too difficult to pivot from one part of the same company to another. Disconnects or no. That said, my departure may have been somewhat hasty. Well, you could call it a small lapse in judgment. Basically, I singled out a ship to salvage that I thought had been out for use for years. As it turns out, it belonged to a wealthy Byzantine who used it only to vacation. As it so happened, I still don't think she tried to use it, too satisfied with the luxuries of Byzantium. Still, I figured it was a good time to turn tail, in case that ever changed. Stories. Huh. Actually, I think I got a couple now that you mention it. Execs from a post-corps used to visit the hotel simultaneously. After assassination number 40, we enacted a rule. No exec visitation without signing a non-aggression contract. please do. Sure, I'd taken to checking the ballroom every few hours prior to the unveiling. Just to make sure no sprats had snuck into the place. You understand. Found her right before I was set to head back to my room in the lower levels for my mandated 5-hour sleep period. Tell ya, thank the law for caffeinoid. Been too upset to get a wink of sleep since. And hey, now I can finally see smells. Beats all hell out of me. Maybe she was, practicing for the unveiling? What? No! Just because I found the corpse doesn't mean I made her a corpse. I was in shift all day. Besides, I loved Helen serials. Well, the old ones anyway. The newer episodes are hot junk on a warm day. Sure? What's on your mind? Of course I did. I just told you I found the body. Oh, wait. You mean when she was still breathing? No, of course I didn't. Plus, it's untoward for an employee to speculate about the actions of a hotel guest. Honestly, you're more than a little right. I've been burning at the britches to share my theories. Day of her death, I saw Helen leave the hotel premises with the profit of profitability, and didn't see her come back. A little on the suspicious side, I think. Seemed especially strange, seeing how, as far as I was aware, the two didn't get on. Yep. Gives seminars on increasing profit margins and the like. Can't say much else, seeing how I ain't in the gossip market. Or as I can recall, Helen dismissed the ladies' seminars in some kind of interview. Said her co-star used them, but she didn't. The top rungers are always ready to read between the lines of famous folks and seem to think the profit was on her way out. Woman lost a ton of bits and is set to lose more. I hope all that helped. I'd like to be as useful as I can in the investigation. I just didn't want to steer anyone the wrong way. Everyone's got theories. I don't reckon mine hold much more weight than anyone else's.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but while the hotel is an active crime scene, I regret to inform you that all new bookings, room upgrades, room downgrades, and in-room massages are Oh, you're the special inspector. Mr. Kincannon warned me you'd be checking in soon. Why, you? Oh, Mr. Kincannon. He runs all sublet underground operations in the Eridanus Atmospheric Complex, including the Grand Colonial Hotel. But he keeps his office down in the warehouse district, near the docks. If you should require to meet with him in person, you're most likely to find him there. While you're here, Inspector, could I set you up with a room? For you? Only the best, ma'am, of course. You'll be staying in our luxurious penthouse suite, vacated just recently. So recently that unfortunately the room's still being cleaned. The last guest left her belongings behind when she vacated unexpectedly, so we needed a little time to tidy the suite up for you. Simply call the elevator in the lobby and our highly skilled operator will deliver you to your private floor with efficiency and cheer. I'd love to, Inspector, but I don't really have the authority. Moreover, the guests were promised exclusivity. If I let you up there, I'll never hear the end of it. That's a good point. If they give me guff, I can just tell them that they're obstructing justice. That has a nice ring to it. Let me just set you up with VIP guest floor access. Done. You can now come and go as you please. It certainly is a marvel of modern ingenuity, luxury, and ambition. Please, allow me to answer any curiosities you might have about our building and the amenities on offer. Twice the size of the next biggest room, and kitted out with any amenity you want, as well as many that you won't. Best to enjoy it while you can, Inspector. Typically, the only people who can afford the penthouse suite have enough bits to suffocate everyone on Terra 2. Also, please inform me if Woolridge gives you a hard time about getting a better room than his. Don't tell him I said this, but everyone on staff wants to strangle him. Most certainly. All the important folks can be found in the utmost parts of the hotel. You can hardly walk 3 feet without bumping into a tossball grate or a bored exec. Though maybe don't bump into them. Could be harmful to your health. Who would be interested in a staff-only area? Most folks never ask about the sewers beneath Rizzo's plant, either. Of interest to your investigation? Well, I suppose there is that one door we're not supposed to open. But I'm sorry, Inspector, I'm not authorized to grant you access to any staff sections of the hotel. You'll have to find a way in on your own. Who would be interested in a staff-only area? Most folks never ask about the sewers beneath Rizzo's plant, either. Oh no, Inspector, ma'am. I live down there too. But that doesn't mean I plan to abide in the bowels of the Grand Colonial forever. The best thing about Sublight compared to other organizations is the potential for upward mobility. We bottom rungers get in, do our job, do it well, then move up and on. This is but one rung on the grand ladder of life, you see? If you're sure. My apologies, Inspector, but that would be a severe violation of guest privacy. We here at the Grand Colonial firmly believe that... All right, my supervisor just walked out of earshot. Some folks just don't understand the importance of gossip. About whom? And what would you wish to know? You know, out of everyone here, I probably knew the least about Helen. I'm not much of an Aetherwave watcher myself. And Helen always had a crowd of admirers chasing her, you see, so she rarely stopped to chat. Friendly enough, surely, but always seemed untouchable. Emphasis on seemed. Everyone wanted to be around Helen. She could usually be seen alongside Bertie or Woolridge, for obvious reasons. You know, out of everyone here, I probably knew the least about Helen. I'm not much of an And Helen always had a crowd of admirers chasing... Now that you mention it, she was usually calm and collected, but every so often I'd see her looking all wild-eyed and intense. It seemed as if she was determined about something. Or maybe she was just hungry. That woman ordered a lot of food. Maybe show business gives you a faster metabolism. Ah, Bertie. Is he bigger than he is dumb, or dumber than he is big? I have a bet with a friend. Not sure we'll ever get it to pay out. Bertie used to be Helen's beau, though he isn't anymore, and not just because she's dead. If I had 1,000,000 bits, I'd spend every one just to learn what caused their split. Her deal? Not making them. I'd laugh at my own comment, but everyone knows there's no bigger joke than the prophet of profitability herself. Didn't you hear Helen's interview? That woman is the definition of humbuggery. Anyone who gives her the time of day is a right fool. I mean, Spencer Woolrich has taken several of her productivity seminars, and look where it got him. Don't waste your time. If looks could kill, he'd have put her in the ground 10 times over. Man's clearly jealous of her success compared to his. See, I'd bet we're the only two people thinking about him in all of Eridanos. And I only am because you mentioned his name. If you leave woolly cow milk out, it turns to curds. Leave the curds out, they begin to get stale, then rot. Woolridge is on his way to the trash bin, and everyone knows it. Either he's in denial, or he knew Helen would be checking out soon, judging by his increasing demands for a room upgrade. You know, I'm not... And Helen always had a... That's a shame, Inspector. What if I wanted to know a little about you? A dashing gunslinger type, then. I'm sure the investigation will turn out splendidly in your hands. Or at least Mr. Kincannon seems confident enough to believe so. Ah yes, we are most pleased to offer you our grandest of grand accommodations, Inspector. The penthouse suite on our topmost floor is now available for you. The last guest left her belongings behind when she vacated unexpectedly, so we needed a little time to tidy the suite up for you. Simply call the elevator in the lobby, and our highly skilled operator will deliver you to your private floor with efficiency and cheer.
Beep, beep, beep. Timeline discrepancy detected nearby. An industrial-grade laxative has been added to the liquor in these bottles.
Why, hello there! Goodness, I always enjoy seeing guests, but it's been so long since I've chatted face to face that I about hopped out of my skin at the sight of you. Excuse me, I should introduce myself, though you might know me already, just not by name. I'm Bellhop Sullivan. You've likely heard my dulcet tones through the elevator intercom. Oh, that's so nice of you to say. I'm glad to meet you too. Now that our introductions are out of the way, do let me know if I can help you with anything. Unfortunately not. I was in the operator room for the elevator, as usual. The camera feed only allows me to see within the elevator, which always has many people coming through. For what it's worth, the murder was a right shame. I always enjoyed the serials starring Ms. Helen, though I did find them prone to repetitive plot structures. But I'm sure you've heard the rumor about what actually did her in. That marauders got into the hotel and management is covering it up so the guests don't run off. Well, yes, but having an operator certifies that the right guests end up on the proper floors. We wouldn't want tossball players rubbing shoulders with CEOs. It'd be anarchy. Plus, there's always the risk a guest chips a nail or loses a ring on a button. It's an extra effort, but the Grand Colonial prides itself on personalized service in all things. That and the elevator still works if I'm ever not around. I do take occasional breaks and sleep every so often. Oh yes, Norville's great. Always ready to help any and all guests who might need it. And so handsome, too. His judgment sometimes leaves something to be desired, I will say. Kept badgering Halcyon Helen prior to her death about an autograph or something. A little beyond his station. Well, not necessarily, but they're fairly prevalent on the other complexes. It wouldn't take much for them to find their way here. Slug claims they've got the problem under control, but I don't understand why they haven't simply gone and exterminated all of the Marauders like the vermin they are. Oh, well, I'm just here to push buttons.
You know, I never imagined Spencer Woolrich would outlive Halcyon Helen.
Hello there, my inordinately... Oh, you're the one who visited me. Hello again. Thanks so much for brightening my day. What authorized floor can I bring you to? Next stop, the finest seat in the house.